This week was Apple's annual Worldwide Developer Conference, where we get a preview of all the new software and cool features coming out in the fall. And this had to have been one of the biggest WWDC events in recent years because it was jam-packed with great new updates for all of our Apple devices. There was honestly so much that it has me wondering if they're trying to make up for last year's Apple Intelligence disaster by giving us almost everything else we've ever complained about. Except, of course, a better Siri. At least, not yet. But anyway, here are the best new updates coming this fall that you need to know about. So the first thing to know is there's now a new naming convention. Instead of version numbers, we are going from iOS 18 to iOS 26 and iPadOS 26. Everything will be 26 because even though they're coming out at the end of this year, they will mainly be used in the year 2026. So in theory, it should be much easier now to remember which OS we are on. The next big thing to know is there is an entire new look coming across the ecosystem. So all of your Apple devices, including Apple Watch, Apple TV, and even CarPlay, will have this new design they're calling liquid glass. And they're saying this new fluid design kind of blurs the line now between the hardware and software because it just blends into the background and is less distracting overall, to the point where they're even going to give an option for an all clear design, where even the apps will be clear and blend into the background of your phone. Now, at first glance, I do find it looks pretty sleek, especially some of the attention to detail with some of the buttons and toggles, but I'm trying to reserve judgment until I actually have it in front of me, because some of the early reports are saying there could be issues with readability since there's no opaque background to really make words jump out at you. So we'll see what it actually looks like in the fall, but this is what the new design will be like across all of your Apple devices. But part of the design that I do find looks incredible is this new dynamic lock screen, where the time will actually adapt and scale to fit the subject of the photo, but also as notifications roll in. And if your photo has a clear foreground and background, it'll even give it this 3D effect, which I just think looks so cool and cannot wait to see it in person. Some of the Apple native apps also got really important updates that you need to know about. One of those apps is the Photos app, which you may remember got completely redesigned last year and caused quite a bit of controversy. Well, this year, they are fixing the Photos app, or at least kind of addressing that controversy, by giving us back a menu. Even though it's a small one at the bottom, it will make it a lot easier to navigate the app. Apple Notes, which, as you know, is one of my favorite apps, will now finally support Markdown. So hopefully that will make importing and exporting notes so much easier. The Camera app gets the big new redesign this year, but thankfully, not as bad as the Photos app last year. This time it has all the same features, it just looks a little bit more streamlined and easier to use with less clutter. And the moment I have been patiently waiting for is the Journal app will now be available on both the Mac and the iPad, and it will support Apple Pencil. So I have been waiting for this and asking for this since the Journal app was first announced. I have no idea why it was iPhone only initially, but I'm super thankful that this fall I'll finally have it on my iPad and I can actually use it with my Apple Pencil. Apple Music is also getting some pretty cool new features like lyric translations and lyric pronunciation, and this new auto mix feature that will basically act like a DJ and seamlessly mix from one song to the next. But one app that I think is in desperate need of an update that wasn't even mentioned this year was the Home app. So no idea what's going on there. Hopefully it will be updated soon, but only time will tell. As for the more device-specific updates, there were so many that were announced, and a lot of them are quite significant to the point where I almost cannot believe they're all going to be coming out in the same year at the same time. watchOS 26 will now support Apple Notes, which is incredible. You will now be able to both create a new note quickly on your watch and also view any existing notes at a glance. And they announced this new flick gesture to dismiss notifications, which will be great when you're carrying something and want to mute a call or a timer or an alarm. In iOS 26, the phone app was completely redesigned. They've kind of consolidated all of the different menus into one simple and easy to see view. So in this new look, your favorites will be easy to spot at the top, and all of your recent calls and voicemails will be in one place below that. Then they announced this new call screening feature that will help with all of the spam calls we get. So anytime an unknown number calls you, your phone won't ring, but it will auto answer the call, and a robotic voice will ask who's calling and why. And then your phone will ring and show you the little preview with the person's answer, so who's calling and why they're calling you. Then you can decide if you want to pick up or completely ignore the call. I feel like this one might have a bit of a learning curve, but there is apparently a way to disable it if you don't want that feature. Then they announced a new hold assist feature, which I cannot wait to test out, because how it works is anytime you're on hold and your phone detects hold music, it will stop the music. The phone will stay connected, but you can put your phone away in your pocket, move on with life, and your phone will ring once an operator has answered and you're off of hold, to let you know it's time to talk to someone. In the Messages app, you'll now be able to change the background of your conversations, and you'll be able to pick from a stock photo or any of your own photos. In group chats, you'll now be able to use polls, which will be great when you're trying to decide when everyone's available or where you and your friends are all going to go eat. And you'll now also be able to see typing indicators in your group chats, so you'll know who's typing at all times. And similar to the call screening feature in the phone app, the Messages app will now also have a filtering option for any unknown numbers and spam messages. Visual intelligence, which was already one of my favorite new features, can currently only be used with the camera app. Now with iOS 26, you will thankfully be able to use it anywhere on your phone. So even if you're in a social media app or on Safari and you see something that you want to search, you can just take a screenshot of it and then use visual intelligence to find it on Google or even like Etsy or Pinterest. Plus, if what you took a screenshot of has a date and time, you'll automatically see a suggestion to add it as a calendar event with one click. Live translations are now coming to the phone, FaceTime, and Messages apps, which I think could be pretty cool. I'm anxious to see how well it's going to work, but it'll just make conversing so much easier when you're traveling or even talking to friends overseas. Your iPhone will now also tell you an estimated time to charge, which is such a small thing, but it's going to be wonderful. So you actually know how long you have to wait for your phone to be fully charged. But hands down, the biggest update for iOS 26 is that you can now finally decide the snooze duration. You're no longer forced to a 9-minute snooze. You can now choose a duration. I think it's from 1 minute to 15 minutes. The new macOS 26, or also called macOS Tahoe, is bringing 2 iPhone features to the Mac, which I'm very excited about. So one is live activities, and this is actually a new continuity feature. So even if you place an order for food on your phone, you will now see the live activity on your Mac. The new phone app will now also be available on your Mac as a standalone app. So you'll be able to place calls, see recent calls, your voicemail, and have access to the new features like live translation, call screening, and also hold assist right from your Mac. Files are also being upgraded on macOS 26, so you can now customize your file folders with colors and even emojis to make it a little bit easier to tell them apart. The biggest macOS 26 update though is to Spotlight, which just got infinitely more useful. So now when you press the keyboard shortcut Command Spacebar to open Spotlight, you will finally be able to see your clipboard history on your Mac without a third-party app. So you'll be able to see your history of all images, text, and links you've copied. You'll also be able to perform actions just from typing them into Spotlight, like starting a recording or creating an event or even starting a podcast. One of the coolest things they showed though is actually sending an email, a complete email, from Spotlight. So now you can actually type out the message, the email subject, and the recipient all into Spotlight and send the email without even actually taking your hands off the keyboard. On top of that, they're introducing these quick keys with some presets, but you can also apparently create your own. And so in Spotlight, you can use the letters SM to quickly send a message, or AR to add a reminder, all in Spotlight. If everything up until now sounded pretty cool, then make sure you're sitting down for this next one, because iPadOS is getting its biggest update ever. iPads are finally going to be as close as they've ever been to Macs. Apps will open as a full screen window like normal, but now you'll actually have a grab handle so that you can resize them and arrange them wherever you want on your iPad. The windows will also get the red, yellow, and green buttons that we currently have on our Macs so that you can close, minimize, or full screen the window. And now you'll also easily be able to tile the windows like you do on a Mac. So you can flick a window to tile it to the edges, and there's a slider so you can easily resize them. And you can click and hold on the window controls in the top left to get more tiling options like the four corners. But that's not even close to all. The pointer is now actually going to look more like a cursor instead of the magnetic dot it used to be. There's also now going to be a menu bar on your iPad like we're used to on the Mac, which will always be available and be a really quick way to access different settings. Files on the iPad are finally getting updated, so you'll have the same customizations in terms of color and emojis as the new update on the Mac, but you'll also finally be able to choose which app to open with a file and set defaults. And you'll finally be able to add a folder to your dock on your iPad. So I know for me, I will definitely be moving my downloads folder onto my dock the same way I have it set up on my Mac so that I can quickly drag and drop those files into Apple Notes or even into my email. And believe it or not, the Preview app is actually coming to iPad as a standalone app. So this is going to make working with PDFs on your iPad so much easier. You'll be able to autofill PDFs and use your Apple Pencil to mark up the document, highlight the document, sign the document. And this is a big one. You'll also be able to use Preview to edit images and actually export them in different formats and sizes, all on your iPad. And if ever you are exporting something that's taking a while, like exporting a video, you're no longer forced to sit and watch it export until it's finished, because your iPad will now also support background tasks. So the video will keep exporting while you go check social media or your email or something like that. And the iPad is also getting that new standalone phone app as well. So if you're a pretty light Mac user and have been hoping for your iPad to completely replace your Mac, this might be the year you can make that happen. Make sure you're subscribed, because I'll be making full reviews and tutorials for these new features when they're officially released in the fall. But in the meantime, let me know, which new feature are you most excited for and what do you think is still missing? So that's it. Have a great day. Bye.